Welcome to GP Bullhound's Tech Thoughts. Today is the 20th of August, and we're here with Inge Heydorn and Johan Roslund for our weekly market roundup. Today, they will talk about what's worrying the market and cover some of the gaming and semis reports. Over to them.
Thank you very much and good morning. I think when it comes to, as we talked about before, growth worries, COVID worries, inflation worries, I think we're at the same place, but we're now getting really clarity on the tapering. It's going to happen in the second half of this year. I think the Fed is getting clearer and clearer on that. So we're definitely going to see tapering in the second half. And I don't think that's a big worry for the market. I think the market is more focused on the three other things we just mentioned. And especially on the inflation side, I think that's where the biggest worry is. But with that stated, CPI numbers from Japan this morning coming out still negative, which is quite interesting given the fact that we see inflation growing almost everywhere in the world, excluding Japan.
Yeah, and it was interesting. We even saw Microsoft announcing that they will raise prices on Office 365, which they haven't done in a really long time. So it maybe also adds to the inflation data. Yeah,
and Cisco numbers the day before, record order growth, 31%. We haven't seen that since 1999. But top line growth for 5 to 7% only, so they can't get products. But really pushing hard that they won't see any big effects on EPS, given the fact that input prices are going up so much for them. So it's definitely an issue in the technology space.
And talking about Japan, we heard that Toyota sliced production with 40% now because of lack of components and especially semiconductors. But we can see here on this chart, this is the 1 year chart, and we have two companies reporting this week. Applied Materials that makes the equipment for producing semiconductors, and Nvidia. And we can see that they have both really overperformed the index here in green, which is Nasdaq. Any comments on those two reports, Inge?
Yes, Applied reported last night, and as normally semi-capital equipment, nothing happens because everything is really long-term thinking and long-term planning. So a really strong report, slightly better than expected on all lines, and really just highlighting that the growth continues. And I think that's where the discussion could be regarding how long will this growth last. And I think looking at it historically, the market is saying it's very cyclical and our demand will come down and things like that. And that's partially true, but a lot of things have changed in the industry. We've gone from an Intel world where Intel set the agenda to a world when we have so many suppliers supplying CPUs, GPUs, and so on. And that gets into Nvidia, the GPU play, which had fantastic numbers coming out. But more interesting, and then looking at the numbers, is that if you look at the general investor has been very worried about the Bitcoin effect in Nvidia. How big is that Bitcoin effect? They even created a special unit reporting the Bitcoin supply, but also stating that they don't know where the GPUs are going, so they can't state how much of the GPU sales goes to Bitcoin. And as everybody knows, we have had a big breakdown on Bitcoin production in China in Q2. So Bitcoin production came down quite a lot, but still GPU sales were up significantly for the company, 80%. And on top of that, the part that they report Bitcoin sales in were down by 40%. So I think that will settle some of the worries when it comes to Nvidia in the short run. But on top of that, Intel just released they're coming with a new GPU in beginning of next year. So Intel joining the race again against AMD and Nvidia. So some good news and some news that are not that great, but at the same time, remember Intel has stated before that they would come with interesting products, and the story of Intel has been delay. So let's see.
And a segment that was very strong in the Nvidia report was gaming. And looking at two other gaming reports here this week, we had Roblox this Monday, and we had C Limited, the Southeast Asian company, later in the week. And especially C really had a really good report, up 150% when it comes to sales. Also raising guidance, which is really important in these days where the market is really more interested in the guidance than the actual numbers. What do you think about these two reports, Inge?
If you look at C, you can't be more than impressed on the gaming side. 67% growth in a really tough comps. And organic growth, remember that, organic growth. So this is just them delivering. And I think given their size, it's $1 billion plus. It's just outstanding compared with anybody. So if anybody's winning this game for the moment, it's definitely C Limited. On the e-commerce side, really strong, very strong growth. But at the same time, that really hurts profitability. And I'm still, I like C, we own C, but the thing that always worries me when it comes to losing money shipping every package is that when will we see them get into profitability? That's the thing that worries me. We still like C, but that's the big question mark when it comes to C and their aggressiveness and willingness to take losses at this point in time to grow.
And they also have the fintech part, really small right now, but those kind of assets seems to be really high priced if you look at other companies. And Roblox also announced that they're buying a competitor to Discord, which is a messaging voice and text messaging platform. And this was called Gilded. It's not a large acquisition, but still interesting that they're active on the M&A side. And I think with that, we are done for today. See you next week.